grew up here. I mean, spent basically my entire childhood life. Went away for college for 4 years and then came back and was still living with mom and dad going through law school. But this was not only my home, but really, my life, my playground, where really all of it started for figuring out where I was going down the road. So, from a family history standpoint, my father was originally from Maui, but came here. He was a boarder up here on the school campus. And he went away for college, met my mom in college, and they were both back here. So my dad was teaching high school math. My mom was a dorm advisor, which was why we were up here. So on all of the dorms, there are faculty housing at the end of each dorm. So we had a 3-bedroom home that was connected to the dorms. My mom was taking care of the girls that were here from various islands while we were living up here. And eventually she also was a math teacher, so both my parents were math teachers up here. So I was well watched while I was up here as a student. Actually had my dad my sophomore year for math, which was an interesting aspect. But then now my wife is a high school math teacher up here. Actually, she was teaching with my parents for a number of years before they retired. My daughter lived through the same thing. She had my wife, her mom, as a high school math teacher. So it's kept coming around for us as a family up here. Initially, we lived just below campus in some faculty housing. I was probably about 4 years old when we moved up here onto campus. So it was really from that point. And there were a number of other families. So we had a group which was sort of called the Campus Kids that would run around and have a lot of fun. Everything from the tennis courts were right down the street from where we were. There was an outdoor basketball court, so plenty of space, obviously. And while it was a different setting in the world back then than today, it was just such a feeling of safety and comfort being on this campus environment and being able to run around and your parents not worry about you and just making sure you get back whenever it was dinner time. Yeah, I think it was special growing up on this campus and getting to be involved with these families that make a difference. I guess another family, the Horwath family, who lived right below us. Mr. Horwath was the industrial arts teacher up here, but their girls were two that I babysat. But the thing that I remember them for, Dawn, their daughter Donnie, who's now passed away, but she was a Special Olympic athlete. And it was really my first introduction to the Special Olympics, and I've now served on the board for almost 10 years now. And it started because I remember Donnie and what she was as a Special Olympic athlete and being able to babysit her and be a part of her life. And so now being on the board of taking that to sort of a different place has been a fun experience for me. The campus has gotten steeper because back in high school we used to have to run these roads all the time. And so I've gotten up here and tried to run these roads. It's a lot harder running up these hills than it used to be. So another evolutionary piece that's happened. It's interesting as I look back, clearly everything of where I started here at Kamehameha has had an impact. And I talk about them in big ways at times and in little ways at others. I mean, some of the stories I tell is, as we talk about Ward Village and talk to groups about what's it mean to be in your community. I share, someone said this to me once, it stuck with me. It's a place when you're driving down the street, you're waving to the people driving past you. And I think we can all think about how we experienced that, but growing up here, on these streets, we all sort of knew each other, whether it was the teachers or the faculty or whoever it was, and we were always waving to each other as we were going up and down the streets. And so that community bond is something that stuck with me. Sports was a huge part of my life. I was lucky enough to play both in high school and college. My dad coached up here for years. He coached football, baseball, basketball. And so all those things that sports brings to you from a leadership standpoint, a friendship standpoint. When I came back from college, I actually got to coach for 7 years with my dad. We were coaching the varsity girls basketball and the JV boys basketball. And it was something I remember my coaches telling me that I ended up telling the players I was coaching is that in the end, as you get down the road, no one remembers all the wins and losses, right? It's your friends, it's your teammates, it's all of that really makes a difference. And as I take those things off of the hill and into the workplace, it's made a big difference. And it's also, I think something I've learned, obviously from my parents being teachers and living up here, is finding ways to make a difference in people's lives and finding career paths where I hopefully am able to make that difference. Yeah, you know, Ward Village is a place where I think all of us who grew up here spent time down there, right? Whether it was in Ward Warehouse of the spaghetti factory and the Charter House originally, the theaters and all of that fun. And now seeing a residential element come into that and have a place where people can now start their roots. And you know, our Keiki Ohana project, which we're up to about the 28th floor, that'll be done by the middle of next year. But those are 375 Hawaii residents that are going to be able to start their own story right in the urban core of Honolulu. And those kinds of opportunities didn't happen too often. They just weren't available. And so when you tie that with what's happening, we'd say, what's happening at the street level, the community that's being created, I hope that those guys are getting in the elevator, walking down the street, and like we talked about the cars, waving hello, and being able to say hi to someone as you're walking down Oahe Street, because you're in this, you may not even be in the same building, but that's your community. That's the future that I have a lot of fun talking about and really hope comes to fruition as we continue Ward Village. I think all of us coming through as students at Kamehameha understand that we were blessed by Princess Pauahi's leaving her estate to create this educational institution that we all got to be a part of, and took us, I think, as Hawaiians a lot farther than other opportunities might have. And so I think for all of us, it's been in our minds. You know, I've, again, been lucky enough that I've been able to live some of those things out in being a part of the Ward Village Foundation and serving on nonprofit boards like Special Olympics and Boys and Girls Club and Make-A-Wish. And you get to see how you can give back in so many ways. And I think what you learn up here in Kamehameha helps set that foundation for all of us. And I think all of us, when we have the opportunity, it's easier and more likely to jump into and find ways to deepen that opportunity because of the experience we've had at Kamehameha. So it's been, again, it's one of those, you don't realize it as you're going through it, but at some point you stop and look back and realize, hey, that really made a difference on me. It's the reason why I am doing what I'm doing today. And so it's a fun part of looking back at where I started into where I am. And again, I think a lot of us who went to school here are able to experience that today.